now we're in a post-lockdown world. The future of work and whether we stay distributed or go back to the office is in a big sort of state of flux. And I know lots of people are making predictions that we should all stay away, or we should all come to work, or we should be some sort of hybrid. And the answer is it's still kind of a mess. And some companies are experimenting with anything and in between. And we ourselves as employees are also experimenting with what works for us. I will tell you one thing, though. The promise or the ideal of staying away from work and being a completely remote employee is starting to backfire a little bit. We're starting to show people feeling disconnected. We're starting to see declines in brainstorming and creative ideas, but also relationships at work are starting to struggle as a result. So I think whether we like it or not, we're going to have to start coming back to work in some way, shape, or form, at least in some hybrid fashion. I think the future of completely remote work, except for rare circumstances, is probably not going to be the norm. So every time there's been new technology, we have adapted and changed, of course. I remember, this is going to date me now, but I used to have like a mind like a steel trap for phone numbers. I knew everybody's phone numbers. I knew 10, 50, 100 phone numbers, like family, friends. I just knew all phone numbers. And then for my birthday, I got a Casio digital diary with 2K of memory. And I was able to put all my phone numbers in there. Now, I know my phone number and I know my sister's phone number, and that's it. I don't even know my best friend's phone number. I just type in their names in my phone. My mind literally doesn't work that way anymore because the technology did the work for me. And my brain said, fine, screw you. You got the technology, you don't need me. So yes, of course, there are going to be adaptations. You know, the Iliad, for example, was a book that we read in high school or college that's this big. That was handed down by storytelling over generations until we figured out the printing press. And now we can't remember stories that long. We just can't do it. So will our minds adjust thanks to AI and ChatGPT? Of course. For better and for worse, yes, we will adapt. I love the idea of a 4-day work week. And I think that, you know, for anybody who's ever sort of taken a day off, you don't actually get a day off. What you have is 5 days of work to do in 4 days. And for anybody who's ever taken a vacation, you know that time before the vacation, you're more productive than you've ever been because you hope not to do any work while you're on vacation. So as long as we hold each other to standards where we're not doing 4 days of work, but rather we're doing 5 days of work in 4 days, meaning there's less time for long lunches, there's less time for long breaks. And as long as we can get all the work done in 4 days, yeah, I'm a fan. So I know I've thought about experimenting with it myself. I know that there's a lot of studies being done on it, but I'm totally curious by it. And I'm definitely curious, and I like the idea of experimenting. And I think companies should announce pilot programs if they're curious, as opposed to, you know, making big decisions. You don't have to sort of go whole hog. You can experiment. But yeah, I find it really curious. No, it's not, because the amount of money you need to make to survive is actually not a very high number. You know, you're paying for lifestyle, you're paying for desire, paying for disposable income, you're paying to give away money, you're paying for freedom. But simply, if your only motivation is to make enough money to survive, I mean, $30 a day will cover that, you know, but if you want to live somewhere, you know, you probably want to make more money. So no, why money is a result. Money is not a purpose. A purpose is something that's potentially unachievable and unrealizable, and it's something that's inspiring. You know, if you talk to somebody and say, so why do you do what you do? Like, well, I just make money to survive. Like, you're not inspiring anybody. I hate to break it to you. The thing that keeps me going in the darkest of times, quite frankly, are my friends. And I don't mean me like I'm doing this for my friends. I mean literally calling up my friends and saying I'm struggling, and my friends are there for me. Yes, my why is always there. Yes, my vision is always there, but dark times for me are not the lack of optimism and the lack of inspiration for cause. It's the lack of energy to do it. For me, dark times is not loss of vision. It's loss of energy, and it's loss of desire to get out of bed and do it. And when I realize that I'm not alone and I'm surrounded by people who love me and care about me, that's the reason I get out of bed, is I want to make them proud and I want to do right by them. And it's kind of a magical thing when you do something out of gratitude. When you believe in the mission, you have a toxic boss. There's, first of all, are they truly toxic or are they just a bad leader? There is a difference. A bad leader is somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. They're operating out of fear. They have a ton of pressure on them. They don't have the skills. And we can actually operate with empathy for them, which is, to go to your boss and say, hey, look, I'm here. I believe what you believe, and I'm here to help you succeed and make you look great. So, we can work together. Or, hey, today was really difficult. You came down really hard on us. Are you okay? That's what operating with empathy is. If you truly have a toxic boss, but you love the mission of the organization, if the organization's big enough, are there opportunities somewhere else in the organization that you can look to? Have you sought advice from other people in the organization? I want to stay here. I love it here, but I'm really struggling with my boss. And unfortunately, worst case scenario, sometimes you have to leave. Now, toxicity, again, is something very different than somebody who's a bad leader. Bad leaders make our lives difficult, but we can also learn a lot from them about how not to do things, and we can actually learn to become the leader we wish we had and actually take care of them as well. But if it's truly, truly, truly toxic, look for other places inside the organization, or I hate to say it, you may have to leave. The number one rule about leaving a job is you always want to go to something, not away from something, right? If you're just going to take whatever the next thing is, it sounds like you're trying to get away from something. That's a bad motivation to take another job because you may not end up in something better. You always want to go to something. And I'd rather you hold out a little bit and wait for something that actually inspires you, or more important, to go work for a person who inspires you that you really want to work for. That's actually more important than the job or the money, is the person you're going to work for. Every job decision I've ever made my entire career, I chose who I was going to work for, not what account or even how much they were going to pay me, because I wanted to grow, and I'm going to grow more with somebody who takes care of me. And I'd rather you wait out a little bit, because if you're going to take something that's dissatisfying, you just want to get away from it, you'll end up in something dissatisfying again, and you're going to just repeat the process. So I would hang out a little longer if you can to find a person you really want to work for. It's a great question. I think we very often confuse mentor and champion, right? A champion is somebody in your company, usually in your hierarchy, usually who can influence your career, put in a good phone call for you, encourage other people to take a bet on you. That's a champion. A mentor is somebody who just cares that you're growing, cares that you're doing well, and probably has no ability to impact your career. They're outside of your hierarchy and maybe outside of your company or outside your industry. They just care about you. So I've always found it weird when we assign mentors, because yes, I think a true mentor is kind of like a true friend, which is they always have time for you and they really do care about you. So yeah, I do believe that a mentor should care about you, and a true mentorship program is kind of like making a friend program. And if it doesn't connect, you should find another one. Yeah, mentors they should care about you. Yes. So whenever I get really nervous and anxious before a big talk, there are two things that I remind myself. Number one, it goes back to a lesson I learned a couple years ago when I was watching the Olympics. And all of the journalists asked all of the athletes, are you nervous or were you nervous? And all of the athletes gave the same answer. No, I'm excited. No, I was excited. And if you think about it, what are the characteristics of nervousness? Your heart starts pounding, your hands get clammy, you start envisioning the future. Well, what are the characteristics of excitement? Your heart starts pounding, your hands get clammy, you start envisioning the future. The reason that the journalists were asking, are you nervous, is because they would be nervous. But these elite athletes had learned to interpret that data as excitement. That's why they're elite athletes. And so I did a little experiment. I was on a plane and we hit some really bad turbulence and I got really nervous. And I said out loud to myself, this is exciting. And in an instant, I felt fine. My body instantly was able to convert all of that data that says you're nervous to this is exciting. And I use that when I go out on stage as well. If I get nervous, I say to myself, this is exciting. And I remind myself, instead of being like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not qualified to be here. The people here are more important than me. They're more successful than me. As soon as I convert to excitement, then I say to myself, oh my God, I can't believe I get to share the stage with these people. I can't believe that I'm one of them. My goodness, this is incredible. And it happens instantaneously. It's kind of incredible. So the next time you get anxious, just tell yourself, this is exciting. Oh, and the second thing, because I said there were two things. The second thing, I always remind myself I'm here to give. So when I get really anxious, I remember that somebody asked me to come out here and talk to somebody with, I don't care if they like me. I don't care if they follow me on social. I just remind myself I have a point of view and a perspective, and I'm here to give. That's all. And those two things help me combat anxiety and nervousness every time.